First of all, we need to log in as Basecamp manager. So we go to toastmasters.org. We log in as the arrows indicate. Once we do that, we type in our member ID or email, type in the password, and click log in. Very important. Of course, we're going to be dealing with pathways in this case. So what do we click on? We click on pathways, as indicated. But just when you think you've said enough about pathways, we realize, oh, we're specifically going to Basecamp. So we click on go to Basecamp. Just when you think you've seen the word Basecamp enough, there's another time you have to be looking at it and pressing the button, which is at the bottom. It says log in as Basecamp manager, because you can also log in as a member. This might be a review, but I don't want to assume this. So in this case, we're going to log in as Basecamp manager. Continuing on with this, what is probably the first thing we need to learn about? Again, this could be review, and please share this information with others that might be struggling. This will be posted on YouTube, and it is my intent to put timestamps so that if someone wants to know about pending requests, you can go right to that second and point them to it. With just a few minutes of their time, they can learn about a particular topic. The first one that not a lot of people know about, actually, is external training. And all that means is that your member or you has given a presentation outside of your club. And it just gives a little bit of tracking ability to do this as external training in Basecamp. So again, we mentioned we need to be logged in as a Basecamp manager to do this. Once we do this, this is the screen that we will see. This is technically the Basecamp manager home screen. You see these three buttons. Pending requests is the one we're going to address. And just as a parenthetical, I'm not going to be pointing you toward the member progress. That is very specialized. It's very technical, and I certainly would not suggest that a newer member get into that button. And even the manager tutorials, I have found that they are a little bit complex. They're hard to get back from unless you know some basics of navigating within the Basecamp setup as a Basecamp manager. So the only thing that I would click on as a beginner is actually pending requests to get started. This is what it looks like. Once you do that, you'll see view pending requests. This happens to be an external training that I did. I was giving the club secretary training on June 5th of this year. So that's the way I listed it. As you can see, there are two types that we need to be aware of when it comes to external training. This was the initial request of which the VPE can either approve or deny, or I should say the Basecamp manager, whether VPE or technically president or secretary. You may not know that. Let's make sure that we're clear. A Basecamp manager for all clubs will be in the role of either vice president education, who's sort of the main manager of this, as well as the president and secretary. So this was my initial training. In other words, is this a valid thing that we can give you credit for, within Toastmasters? And then we can look a little further. So we click on what the event was, D7TLI Club Secretary, and this is what it shows. It gives a little bit more in detail. It talks about the date, the description, the path. I was doing this on my strategic relationships, the project, the location. In this case, I just said it was in a club other than my home club. That was one of the options, and it was in English. Now, once that is approved, you are given the option to offer any comments. And I like to put something in there for the individual. I'm approving your initial request from the external training. The description, I look forward to hearing back after your presentation, because you're not done yet if you want credit, to approve the final completion in Basecamp. Keep up the great work. And then once you've done that, you'll see there are no other requests in there at this time. But of course, they're very diligent. And then they did the presentation. And now they're saying, okay, well, thank you for approving me. I've done it. And now I need credit for it in Basecamp. So this is the type, as you can see, it's circled, is called completion. And we're given the same options of approve or deny. The green check mark is the approve. The red check mark is the deny. And then, of course, I like to give a little supportive comment. I'm approving your completion request for giving that particular presentation. Congratulations. Now, the one that does confuse a lot of people, boy, I've seen a lot of confusion with this, is level completion. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. Within Basecamp, which is what we're talking about right now, this is how it comes in. It's actually only one that will come in. In other words, we have the option, you can see my name on the far left, the description of my level 4 completion, and then the approve or deny. And then it will basically follow the same sequences we talked about for the external training. In this case, it's only one procedure, but the next thing we need to know about is, okay, we're talking about these pending requests. Well, how do you know when these come up? Well, there are these things called pending request notifications. The club email contact person in Club Central will receive the pending requests. So if you want to be the one receiving those pending requests, you want to be sure that you are listed as the club contact. There are other ways that you can have this sent to multiple people, basically through a forwarding type email. We're not going to get into that particular aspect within the presentation. However, if it comes up in the Q&A, I suspect some here will already know about this, and we can discuss that if it's interesting. But yes, please be sure that if you want to be receiving the Basecamp pending requests, you must be the person listed for email contact in Club Central. Speaking of Club Central, I have definitely had the situation where we have members in a given club that are just going crazy and wonderfully with Pathways presentations. And I say to myself, oh my God, I can't wait to look at their distinguished club program information to see how many goals have been met with their education within the distinguished club program. And then it says 0. It's like, what? Well, I know for a fact that they have already given at least 10 presentations so far at a given time throughout the year. What's going on? And I'll tell you exactly what has happened. This happens over and over and over again. So I really want to drive this point home that level awards must be processed. Certainly in Basecamp, as we talked about, that first thing where we responded to the pending request. But if you want to get DCP credit with Toastmasters International, it must be submitted in Club Central. The way that we do this, we log into the Toastmasters International website, right? So we're not just throwing around these terms, Club Central. What's a Club Central? We're going to show you exactly what we're talking about. And that's something we're going to click on. It's called Club Central. It's the central point for a lot of your club business within the Toastmasters International website. And then we're going to click on a button, Submit Education Awards. So here we are, logging in again. Same way we did in the beginning, member ID, password, login button. There are different ways you can get to Club Central. I like to have one way and teach that, which can have multiple applications. So I like to get people involved with Leadership Central. This is the way I'm going to show you. You probably have other ways that you may like to do it as well. You go my way, you'll click on Leadership Central, and then over to the far left, you can click on Club Central. And there it is. Once you're in Club Central, you'll see several different options, but at the top of this screen, you'll see within the category of club membership, you can click on Submit Education Awards. And please understand, unless this is done, your club, the member, will not get credit within the DCP award system through Toastmasters International. Once we click on that, we would select the member. Now, I did scrub people's information here, but I hope you still get the idea because this is being recorded for posterity. So you would select the member. Once you've done that, it gives you the option to select the education program. Now you've got the member, the program in front of you. You want to make sure that you're correct in the way that you've been doing it. So you click on Review Award Submission. And if it all looks good, you can click on Submit Award, or if you notice something does not quite look right, you can click on Edit. But in this case, we're going to click on Submit Award, which completes that aspect. Now, there's another thing that you want to be aware of. The Pathways Mentor Program. This is something that is available through Basecamp. It's an extensive program. I've been through it. It's excellent. And in the end, it's very similar to doing this with a level completion. So we need to first approve the Pathways Mentor Program completion, and then we need to submit the award in Club Central. Now, I'm going to give a parenthetical because I'm really drawing a line between the basic level BPE, Basecamp Manager, and the advanced, but I'm just going to pop this in case it's interesting. The requirements of the Pathways Mentor Program are pretty explicit. They're pretty straightforward in Basecamp. You really don't see access to the next project until you've completed one thing after another after another. Technically, I found this out through talking with Toastmasters International that you're actually technically not supposed to submit your award until you are actually have the requirements for a Pathways Mentor designation, which would include having completed at least one path, in which case in Basecamp, you can complete the program but not have completed a path. So you need to have a level completed. Of course, you do need to have completed the program in Basecamp and have been a member in good standing for 6 months. This is a parenthetical. I'm just letting those of you know that are maybe more advanced, and this is something that you can ask me about in the Q&A. And again, as mentioned, it's very similar to a level approval in Basecamp and award submission in Club Central. The other thing that I have talked with people about, I remember just a real sweetheart of a person that was so struggling. They just wanted to see who's in my club and what education award status are they at. I think the simplest way to get into this is to click on what's called the club roster within Club Central. We're going to show you what this is. And I really hope that if anybody here has struggled with it, that I can offer a little support, because I know she was very, upset about this. She really wanted to do it and was trying to get into all the reports within her Basecamp account, and it was just absolute misery. But this is a much simpler way to go about it, in my opinion. So this shows your club's member list, and it does display all of their current educational award status. So here we are back at Club Central. We've already talked about how to get into there. And then instead of clicking on Submit Education Awards to the left, you'll click on just a little bit to the right, Club Roster. You'll notice this is in the top section under Club Membership. And I don't mind my information being up there, so I just wanted you to see in the top left, it's got my name, Dave Bones. I happen to have a DTM award status, so that's listed. And it also tells that I'm an officer, so Vice President Education. It says that I'm Pathways enrolled, what I'm paid up through, and it's got some other information. But if you're like this person, you really just want the person's name and their award status. And this can help you with that. To recap, we've talked about the basic level. We talked about pending requests. We talked about awards. And of course, we need to submit those and process them in both Basecamp and in Club Central. The club roster, if you're looking for your members' education status information, that's where you find it.